All right. I am real excited to have my next guest back on Sports Card Nation. It's been a while. We'll talk about some stuff that's happened in between. A lot has changed. He was last on this show in June of 2019. That's crazy. Way too long, quite frankly. But better late than never. From Panini. Kind of weird saying that, but also cool. Mr. Jeff Hofer, welcome back.
It's good to see you, John. Man, that intro to your show is new, and that is epic. That was very
I
nice.
I get a lot of compliments on it, and then I start talking, and then that it's like all downhill from
Then the show starts.
yeah, and then but I always can hang my head on the trailer or the lead in as they say. But
I love it.
hey, welcome back to, like I said, I when I looked it up, I didn't think it's been that long, quite frankly, in June of 2019. I've talked to you, not on the show, but I've talked to you. I've seen you obviously at the national
Yeah.
and that in between. But I mean, a lot, like I said, has changed, not just in the hobby, but even personally and professionally speaking. You're now a part of the Panini team. I mean, kind of just talk about how that kind of, what you can say, how that sort of went down, what you do, and I know you're excited, and I've seen some of the stuff you posted doing some production work, which I've always said, during the Pack Geek days, you had the best production. I was envious. That's why I don't do a lot of YouTube. I seen what you did, and I'm like, forget about it. But kind of
Thank
how
you.
this all came about.
Oh man. Well, first off, I can't believe it's 2019 was the last time we chat on your show, man. It doesn't seem that long, but time flies when you're having fun. So as you mentioned, I took an in-house job at Panini. I'm here in the broom closet right now. And it's wild, man. It's insane that somebody can make a living working in sports cards and essentially just letting their friends know that there's new cards coming out. I mean, that is the majority of what I do here, is just marketing new releases and keeping hobby. My title is hobby marketing director. So I'm the liaison between us and collectors. So I'm just keeping people like yourself, informed about new releases we have coming out.
Yeah, and the production, like I said, you bring some of that expertise from the production side to. I mean, that I gotta guess. I mean, it's kind of a softball question. I'm guessing that makes the transition a little bit easier because it's not unknown territory for you.
Yes. So my wonderful mother likes to joke. She still can't believe that I somehow got a job in sports cards full time. But she jokes that I've been training for this particular job my entire life, being a lifelong collector. And then, I have a marketing and international business degree from college. And then, I worked in content creation, video production, social media video production, specifically for a couple of years uh, since I was out of college. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm combining those two kind of loves and interests into a job. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, crazy. Now, how much when you got offered the position, was it really was it something you had to really think about, or was it kind of like no brainer for you?
So I loved the job I was at prior to this. It was a great, very comfortable, safe job. I had been at a production company for almost 7 years, and I loved the people I worked with over there. So it wasn't a layup. It wasn't. And I know
Yeah.
that that'll probably surprise a lot of people to hear. Like I wasn't immediately like, whatever, I'm in, no matter no matter what the situation is. Tracy gave me a heads up that this particular position, Tracy Hackler, who was in this position
Yep.
prior to me, gave me a heads up that the position was going to be vacant. They were going to be doing some interviews, and he said, I would love to recommend you for the position, which was the most flattering thing ever because I'm a big fan of Tracy's, and he's been a massive influence and mentor to me in the hobby, just from the business side of things. And so I came over here. I met the team. I interviewed. I know they interviewed. They interviewed several other people, and I I just kind of left it at that. I thought, it's what an interesting opportunity. I'll go meet and I'll interview, and then, if I don't hear from them again, no worries. Like, I like the job I'm at, but I would be silly not to at least come over here and talk to them about this crazy potential dream job. And so I don't know how I got so lucky, but I ended up getting getting a wonderful offer, and there was like no negotiations. It was putting in the 2-week notice at my old job and getting ready for a new adventure. And I do think, to go on a slight tangent, it is important to continue those adventures in your life. And I think, in retrospect, my last job, I had kind of come to a point where I was kind of on autopilot, and it was very comfortable and very safe. And in order to continue to advance your work and do the best work you possibly can, sometimes you have to challenge yourself. And here I am.
And so, like you said, a lifelong collector. This is like a dream job. Were you worried? A little bit, like kind of like, you love the hobby, you love collecting. Sometimes we don't always want to know how the sausage, gets
Yes.
made. Like we like the sausage sandwich, peppers and onions, but maybe like was that a thought that really entered your mind, or even this? Did you say, you know what, I'm going to bring like a collector's perspective. I kind of know what I like and don't like hobby wise. I'm going to try to bring that voice and into that. Not that they don't already have some of those or they don't care necessarily, but at least I'll have that opportunity.
I think a little both, but primarily the latter. I uh, I with my position, hobby marketing director. Again, I'm a liaison with people like ourselves, and I think there's a lot of responsibility with this position, and I love that I'm able to bring empathy to the position for collectors, as I understand what it's like. I've mentioned this a few times, but I personally have like 4 or 5 open tickets with Panini customer service. So I'm not gonna like walk over to the other building and say, "Hey, I work here now. Can you expedite these?" Like, I want to be able to communicate with people like yourself and say, "Dude, I understand. Like, I have my own. I'm waiting on a Tyler Hero autograph since 2019. Like, I get it. And so if I can help you out, I will." Now, obviously, I'm in marketing. I'm not in customer service, so I have a small amount of pull over there. But I'm not. I don't want to put myself at the front of the line. Like, I want to be there with the people. I want to be there with my fellow collectors, and I want to be as honest as possible with you guys. And I also want to speak your language, and just get people excited about things that excite me.
Yeah, I got to ask you this. It's now with you being there. I mean, how many people have messaged you? Hey, with that, like I'm waiting on this redemption, or
Uh,
like does that get monotonous? Has it happened? Not
it
happened? Is it?
it is, and if I'm being honest, it is a typhoon of direct messages and just random messages for people, whether they want to work out like a partnership, or they just want free product, or they want me to find their Giannis redemption. And you know what, I empathize with these people. I get it. Like, I was in that position up until 2 months ago, and I'm still in that position in some respect. So I don't. While it can be a lot, and there's only so much I can do, I don't blame people for reaching out to me, and I want to be a guy where you feel comfortable reaching out to ask a question about Panini or about the latest release we've had or whatever it might be. And if I can't do something about it, hopefully I can direct you to the person that can.
Yeah, I mean, and people got to realize too, like you're one person, you kind of just started, like that's
And I'm
you're
super new. I have to emphasize that. Like I am a green here. I'm still learning. I am almost underwater trying to figure everything out.
Yep. So don't bug Jeff. At least not yet. But give him a year or two. So
We
you,
have to
you
remember Tracy had been here almost 12 years. I have a long way to go to be at the level he was with the relationships he has. And that guy he's a lifer working on, the business side of the hobby. So I'm just a collector who, you know, luckily, ended up in this position. So I'm still trying to figure out the business aspect of this hobby of ours.
Now you mentioned Tracy Hackler. Uh, I mean, anyone that's been in the hobby for a length of time knows what he's done and what he represents. Like you said, this is the position he left. He recommended you. Here you are. I mean, talk about is that daunting or to fill those kind of shoes? Even even though you know him fairly well, I know he's been on your show. I mean, talk about sort of that sort of transition.
Uh, Without a doubt, it is daunting. I even tell people that I work with here, like I don't understand how one human being was responsible for that much and was that prolific with content creation, social media, and the blog and videos, and the volume alone that Tracy was able to produce is like I'll be lucky if I ever ramp up to that level. But he knows this hobby inside out. So he had a major advantage um, after having been here for 11 and a half years compared to myself. So I have to also be realistic about what I expect for myself. Like I'm a perfectionist and I want to immediately be like killing it. But there's a lot to learn and I want to do things the right way. And I don't want to, make a lot of shortcuts, and so I'm just trying to stay realistic and humble about all this, and eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to do the position justice.
Well, like I said, they got a great guy in yourself. I'm not just saying that. I know you. I can say that from knowing what you're about, and they might be big shoes, but the big person's coming in there to fill them, and I think they may. I don't know who else interviewed, and with all respect to them, they got a great guy in
Thank you.
you, and it'll be fun to watch. As you get. More experience under your belt. But like content stuff, man, you were to me one of the you know at the top of that list with what you've done, even with Pack Geek. And speaking of Pack Geek, I got to ask. I mean, where will we? I know it's been about a year since any content is. Can you do it if you wanted to? And if that's the case, may we see Pack Geek sometime in the future down the line?
A great question, and thank you for asking about Pat Geek. I don't know. It'll probably be a while, just because we do a show at Panini called Going Direct. Scott Prusha and I do the show. He and Tracy were doing it. And there's a very Pack Geek element to that. It's kind of our unwrapped portion of the show where we break some new products, and we're in a really unique position here. Obviously, we're getting products before most everyone, if not before everyone. Um, and so we have an opportunity to open some of those products on camera before it's out and before other people are cracking it. So that's pretty fun. I wasn't in a position like that at Pack Geek. But if I did do Pack Geek again, and I'm not saying uh, I won't ever, I would probably continue focusing on the older stuff and not do any new stuff, because there might be a slight conflict of interest if I were doing new releases while being here.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't bother me if you're if if you want, but yeah, I think we both know how the hobby can be. People will look for the littlest thing and
Of course.
sometimes make a mountain out of a molehill. Now I got to ask you, I'm not an NFT guy. I'm old. I'm old school. I'm the old man on the porch. I'm a if I can't hold it in my hand it to you like physically, like it's not my thing. Now NFTs are a huge thing. Obviously now being at Panini, I mean, what's kind of your even like as your has I don't know what your opinion was before, like you went to Panini, but it has that like kind of the dichotomy of that. Are you an NFT guy? Are you learning to be one? Where do you fall in that trajectory?
Yeah, well, I'm having to learn to be an NFT guy. I'm a physical trading card guy through and through, and I mean, frankly, I thought NFTs were gonna. I thought that was a fad that was gonna go away, and obviously they haven't. Panini has embraced that. It's a big deal over here. So I'm learning about it. What I was prior to being at Panini was a crypto guy. So I am interested in blockchain, and I'm interested in the smart contract aspect of NFTs, and I think that is really interesting and special. Uh, from that standpoint, like I love the idea of an artist being able to mint NFTs and add like a 5% fee onto that particular work of art, and they get paid 5% every time it changes hands. Like something like that is highly interesting, especially because like I was an artist as an actor and a writer for a long time, and a lot of my friends were making beautiful artwork, and they were having a hard time monetizing it. So I think I'm taking us on a tangent here, but back to
No,
your
no, it's
point,
all right.
I am learning a lot about NFTs, and it's interesting. I'm having to kind of grasp on to the aspects that I find interesting, and eventually I will probably look at it as more of a collectible. Uh, and so, yes, I am learning a ton about NFTs every day.
Yeah, and some of these, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here. There this is an evolving niche too, as literally as we speak. We're seeing a lot now with NFTs that have a tangible aspect to them, whether it be an experience or you
Right.
do get something that I can embrace more than just sort of a picture or a
Right.
digital video, but something that's align with it that is physical too in nature, whether that be, hey, you get to go to the game or meet this particular artist or player or whatever. It could be a variety of different things that I sort of like, because then there becomes a little bit of a physical element to it, whether it be an experience where then you can take photos of your experience, like, hey, this is part of that. And so that part of if I'm looking forward, speaking personally, that's the kind of NFTs that would pique my interest rather than just pure, here's a picture, I own this digital copy, of this, so I'm glad that's kind of it's evolving into those sort of things, because I'm more, not that it's all about me, but just speaking from, I'm more open to that, or receptive to those sort of things rather than just, hey, here's a digital thing I own. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you and I
So
think about that the same, John. I think
yeah.
I'm grasping on to eh, those more tangible assets associated with NFTs too.
Yeah, and we gotta, both of us, and I know and I know I sometimes have to remind myself because I'm old and I forget things. But this is the early stages of this. This is a
Yes.
pretty new, where cards have been around hundreds, over 100 years. NFT. This is a very in the infancy stages. So things are going to change. They're going to evolve, and most likely and hopefully get better as well to be sustainable. So it's like the jury is still out. It's too early to really. Well, I may say it's not my thing. it's actually a very popular to just be sort of tunnel vision, say, well, I don't like it, no one else, I don't do that. Just say I can only speak for myself. And again, I always use the, I'm the old man on the porch guy. I got if I can't if
Shaking
I
a
can't
fist at NFTs.
yeah. Get off my lawn. But you know, but again, we're starting to see some physical elements attached to these things, and to me, that will be the game changer in the space. I think, rather than just have it be, only like a digital copy or a video in the internet's that Al Gore invented. So, but I'm curious, just for being in the hobby so long, like yourself, just and we've seen that in the last. I just think about the last couple years, how the hobby has changed. I talk about it on this show, Jeff. I'm old, where you gotta went away for the hobby for a year or two, came back and not hit the ground running, not missed anything. You can't do that for a couple days anymore. You
I
you take
know.
a you go on a vacation for a couple days and you don't do anything card wise, you're gonna come back, have to play catch up on news cycles or who knows what. It's just a different hobby, and it's exciting too, because for an old guy like myself, it keeps me hobby young. You know what I mean? Because you have
You
to
know,
stay.
they have dog years. What is dog years, like 7,
Yeah, seven
it's
seven
7
human years.
years or something? I'm getting that mixed up, but maybe we need card years. So it's
Yeah.
like, 2 or 3 days equals a year of, a normal life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's we'll have to figure it. We'll do some mathematics and
There you go.
figure out what it actually is. Maybe a week, maybe 7 days is a card year. Because every once in a while we get 2 or 3 days where it's sort of quiet. So we'll do the average and the mean there, and just put it at a week equals what a card year used to be like many moons ago. But I know I talked to you. I asked you off the air. The national is something that's kind of a regular thing for you. It's become a regular thing for me. You're going to be in Atlanta City, as you said before we went live here.
Yes,
Is it
sir.
going to be? Is it going to be different? You think it's going to be a different experience now with the job you're doing, the role you have?
No doubt. No doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
I I will be answering questions versus asking a bunch of questions. So there will be it will probably be very different than my last national. The last national I went to was the one in Chicago, and I was out there with Eric Norton from Beckett, and we spent a lot of time at the Beckett booth. So in that respect, it will be similar because I'll probably be spending the majority of my time in the Panini area, but yeah, I'll probably not be. I don't know. You know what? I don't know. It's gonna be my first with Panini, so I don't want to make too many assumptions before I'm
Yeah.
there. But I can assure you it will be very different than any of my past trips to the national.
Yeah, well, again, I'm looking forward to seeing you, and it'll be fun seeing you in that role too. And maybe I'll just pepper you with a bunch of. I'll come up to the booth and just be Barbara Walters, just heckle you. But you know,
Yeah, let's do it.
but we mentioned the hobbies. Even the last few years changed. I mean, now, what do you think? Like, I mean, it's crazy where the hobby's gone. Just with new innovations, the landscapes obviously changed, and now with NIL, right? The name, image, and likeness. That's a game changer too. I mean, just some of your thoughts. Even just separate from Panini, just as a hobbyist, like just the last few years, all the different things that have occurred, like what goes through your mind?
I I am not somebody that runs away from change and evolution. I love that, and I think I want to say the hobby for a long time was so slow to evolve. And finally, we had another kind of renaissance where you see a ton of evolution in a short amount of time. Um, things are starting to trend mainstream with our beloved hobby that was just for us collectors for the longest time, and now we're seeing people that are interested in it for different reasons, whether that's for an investing standpoint, or if they are kind of a hybrid collector investor, or they're a content creator, or whatever it is. There's always been a little something for everybody in the hobby, but I think even more so now than ever in the past, it's way more dynamic. And I love just the amount of hobby media that's being created these days. When I first started Pack Geek, 2009, 2010, there weren't many shows. There were maybe a handful of people that were actually filming anything having to do with sports cards. And I mean, now, like,
I'm laughing because I'm thinking you even just go to a card show, and there's literally cameras all over the place. Like
yeah,
I feel like, especially with a bigger show like a Dallas
yeah,
or where you're at, or obviously the National, I almost feel like every corner I turn there's a tripod. I almost feel like I'm like an extra walking, like crashing the scene of a movie. But I mean, like you said, from just in a few years, even with this show, I started this in 2018. There was probably 4 or 5 hobby podcasts, and now there's over triple digits, 100. It's
it's wild.
insane, and that's just audio. If we get into the YouTube side of thing, there's thousands. I mean, it
Yeah,
is the water. The beach is packed, as
it
I
is.
like to say. It's just, and it seemed to happen, uh, quickly. Speaking of that, and you are a content creator. Do you think there can be an overkill? Do you think that's the risk that like you can only watch so many videos and listen to so much audio. You can only listen to one audio podcast. You can watch three TV screens or more, but audio wise, you can only have one podcast on at a time. You think we might get too saturated in those areas?
I do, and that's maybe one of the more hypocritical statements I've made in a while. But I do think there can be too much content out there. At a certain point, and I talked about this a lot when I took a break from shooting Pack Geek, that I felt like I was just a part of the noise, and I wasn't doing something that the hobby necessarily needed. And I wish more people thought about that. Like, what are some blind spots in hobby content that you could gear your content towards? Whether that's comedy would be great. My buddy Matt Coleman does a show called The Poll, and he does comedy really well, kind of like the Office style, sort of sarcastic, dry humor. He does that incredibly well. But I think there's room for that. I honestly think there's room for scripted hobby content. It would be fun, like kind of sketch comedy. Uh, but I think where we might not be going in the right direction is, uh, let's say, myself and 4 of my closest collector friends all have a show, and we're in the same city, and we go to all the same shows together. Why not? Why not like merge and combine forces there, and just make one great show with your buddies? Um,
Yeah.
I think there's some room for consolidation, and I don't know, that's what I would like to see, because a lot of like content creators run in the same circles. So why not make a show together? Make it that much stronger, that much easier to promote, because there's multiple people doing it. But you just I don't know, that's I do think, to get back to your question, I do think at a certain point, not everybody needs to have a show. It's almost like you
How
feel
about
like you
their
have to have a
mom?
show or you're on a
Everyone,
collector.
there's this, I don't know if we say it a lot in New York. I don't know if it's in New York. Everyone and their mother has to do it. So it's that
It's
it's
true.
really it is. And again, like you said, I don't want to be, but it's just like I don't know. Listen, these shows are very popular, but the ones where like people are filming deals at the table or the transaction, maybe because I'm a dealer as well and I still set up at shows, like
Yeah.
I've lived that and seen that for a long time. It's fun when it's happening and you're doing it directly, but for me to watch like an hour of that, like, no, with all due respect, I'm just not going to do it. You know,
It makes me uncomfortable when I'm at shows, just minding my own business, and somebody's got a camera on me, like talking to a dealer or something. And this is pre thought through, I don't know. Like I love doing stuff like this, and I don't mind doing it if it's already set up and intended. But something feels weird when you're just minding your own business and all of a sudden you're in the middle of someone's show like that. That feels like you're maybe overstepping your bounds there.
yeah, and I know that, not every show. There's been a few shows that have like said, we don't really want cameras. We don't want to, we want to keep the experience kind of clean for the collectors and hobbyists that are coming in the show. I know the one year I went to the National, like I said, there was almost as many cameras as tables. It just seemed like everywhere you turn, you always, when people are taking photos, you don't want to get in the shot. It was almost like you were doing that with video cameras rather
You're
than
always in the way.
yeah, I'm like, but I mean, at the same time, you want to enjoy yourself and check out everyone's table. And so I think that's why you've seen some promoters say, listen, I rather we not do that. I get it. It's fun, but it's important, a lot of I just don't like seeing like the deal, maybe because I am a dealer, but again, it is seeing a $40,000 card exchange hands in that transaction not common and exciting to see. I guess to some, I mean, even for me, that's kind of cool. But how many times can you see that and it remains sort of interesting, even if the card itself is different? It's just it's a transaction of the hobby. I like the conversations more than even the transaction itself. Just
I do too.
maybe maybe even the bartering or how the deal gets consummated, but to some degree. But after a while, even that sort of gets like, I've seen this movie before, right? You can,
Yeah,
you know,
right, right.
it's like I'm old, so I can watch a movie about 7 8 years after I've actually watched it, and it almost feels like the first time. But like 2 weeks after, I remember everything. So
Yeah.
it's different. But you know what? Again, the content. That's the beauty of content creation too, Jeff. This is freedom of expression. If that's what you love to do? I know you won't, and I'm not going to be one to say, "Hey, don't." That not my style. So I'm not going to probably partake in it or watch it and all of it. And there's some of it, what you did even with packing. You talked about a comical element. I thought you did a great job with some of the on-screen stuff and sound
Thank you.
bites and whatnot. So you brought a lot to that. Hopefully, we'll down the line maybe we'll see that again. Like you said, you do that the show there. You're bringing that element to that as well. So we're not totally devoid of packing. You just gotta
There's a
go
little,
to
if you really, really are a glutton for punishment and you need some pack geek in your life, check out Panini's podcast, Going Direct. And we do it once a week, loaded on Fridays.
And your stuff you've done is evergreen, so people can go to your channel and still watch. I mean, I've done that and just watched the old episodes that you've done. There's still a lot of it's vintage packs
Right,
anyway, so
right.
it doesn't change. It's not just because you're watching it in 2022 and it's a 1978 tops pack. I find that more interesting because you don't see that all the time. So
I do
you can
too.
still
Thank you.
you still can get your fill of packing, especially if you haven't seen it. So there's a plug for you there. Um, you mentioned, you act, you come from the actor, director, writer side. We've seen like Ivan Lovegren comes from that world
It does.
as well. We've seen Rob Go, the Mickey Mantle 5.2. We've seen a lot of it seems like, or more so. I mean, you guys been in it a long time with you and Ivan. I think Rob's a little bit newer. He's been on the show, but we're seeing a lot from that world to this hobby world. Why do you think that is? Is there a reason,
Mm.
or you just think it just is what it is?
Gosh, I don't know what that connection would be unless it is something to do with people that are dreamers, kind of always looking for a new adventure. I don't know. I mean, that's a stretch.
Yeah,
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know that there's a connection, but um, yeah, I don't know. I do think it's probably has something to do with kind of that age range, because a lot of us in that age range grew up collecting cards. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That's a great question.
And we're seeing more. I don't, I know I mentioned you, Ivan, and Robin. I don't want to make it sound like that's it. I just there's the three that came right off the bat. We're seeing more at people in the acting space, music space, just celebrities in general, pseudo celebrities, and that sort of thing. And I mean, especially the last few years, I think with the hobby boom, more it made mainstream news. I said on the show, the local news here, uh, reached out to me and came to my house and did a piece. And I mean, just it's just it's more mainstream than it's ever been. It's always been mainstream to us, but it's really gone. Almost got we could say gone Hollywood, right? It's
It has.
almost gone. I didn't do that on purpose either, but but it's
Fun.
really because,
I'm sorry. Go
and
ahead.
I, yeah, even like people who know with the boom that's happened, I have friends call me that say, "Hey, I've had these cards in my garage or my attic," and they hear about the record auction sales and right away pull those out. They've been in storage or whatever. And sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news about that. But I also try to be educational, explain to them why, and not be harsh about it either. Like, hey, here's why. I got plenty of that stuff too. Don't feel bad. But that's kind of just the buzz around the hobby's got a lot of people who or brought a lot of new people in, as you mentioned earlier. People who've had stuff and just kind of put it away, whether it be a closet, garage, or attic. Says, hey, let's see if I have any hidden gems there. Kind of a treasure hunt of stuff that they already have. I mean, it's just, and I think that's why we're seeing some people come from, again, years ago, like you said, our age. It wasn't as cool to say to someone like, yeah, I collect baseball cards or whatever sport. It's, oh, you do. It was sort of, not looked upon as fondly as it is now. Now it's like the in thing to do. And I joked. Josh Luber did his manifesto there, where he said trading cards are cool again. I did a spoof of it, and I said, hey, trading cards have always been cool. Just a little poke the bear. But to me, it has. And I know you feel the same way, but
Sure.
there's an element, I know what, thinking about it and not reacting as fast. I kind of understand what he meant. Like, you're getting a lot of new people who wouldn't have considered collecting or purchasing cards now, that are, and so that's kind of what he was driving at. And I mean, it's just grown exponentially. I mean, you think there's, I mean, obviously that's a good thing when you're in the hobby. You want your hobby to be doing well and thriving. You think is there an element where there's a bad side to that too? How do you feel about that? And is that something you can bring to your role at Panini and say, hey, think about this here?
um, I know there are collectors amongst us that are not excited about new people entering the hobby, and I'm not. I'm not one of those people. Like I've never looked at the hobby like this is my hobby, and like you aren't a part of it, or you don't deserve to be a part of my hobby. I've never thought of it that way. I've all my personal opinion has always been I would love to see this go more mainstream. Essentially, to me, that just means more of my friends collect and talk about it. Like I love that, and it's not some sort of because of any sort of financial reason. I love the idea that sports cards are embraced amongst pop culture. I think that's important, and it hasn't been that way since the boom in the early '90s. We all know how that ended up. So let's hope this is a different trajectory. But um, I think it's good. And certainly from, and I'm just speaking there from a collector standpoint, certainly from a Panini marketing standpoint, it's wonderful. It's just growing our audience, and we're happy to introduce new people or reintroduce new people into the hobby, and uh, hopefully they'll embrace our products that we like so much, and hope they feel the same way. So yeah, I I don't really see any drawbacks. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There's something for everyone in the hobby. As long as you have that mentality, I don't think any sort of growth will scare you, because it's just everybody goes off in their own direction, and they figure out what their place is in the hobby, and what brings them joy in our hobby. And that's all it is, man. It's still, at the end of the day, it's a hobby.
Yep, it's an outlet. It's something you enjoy doing to kind of get away from some of the mundane parts of regular life, if you will.
Yes.
I've always said on this show, Jeff. Musicians, that's sort of their outlet. They enjoy whether they're singing, playing guitar, drums, or whatever instrument. Whatever your thing is, it's supposed to be fun. I'm like you. I welcome new people. I was a new person a long, long time ago,
Sure.
and I was welcomed as a young kid, and so I sort of try to reciprocate that, pay it forward. I may not like, and I think I don't want to speak for you here too, but I may not like everything everyone does, but long as it's legal and above board, that's their choice to
Of
hobby
course.
their way, and it doesn't, and that's the beauty of hobby. I think you kind of just said that is you there's many different ways to do it, and just pick one you're passionate about and feel good about, and not so much worry about what the person next to you is always doing. And there's enough of that in regular life stuff. We don't need
Exactly.
to bring that element of the hobby. And that I've always said that. We've heard the connotation flippers or just in it for the dollar signs, and those transactions, those people who've been labeled as such. That's important to keeping the hobby going forward. You may not like it, may not be your thing, you may not do it, but it's all part of the big part of the hobby. And again, you don't have to do it, I don't have to do it, but I still welcome those folks, and I like to be there if they ask any questions and that sort of thing. But there are people. There's an element that the get off my lawn, or I was here first.
Hmm.
You're not a true hobbyist or a true collector, and I could do a whole show on that. I'm not gonna have us go down that rabbit hole. But I know you know what I'm talking about, and I know you're like that. I try to be like that. We're like, hey, enjoy the hobby. Long as you're not doing anything bad to anybody or illegal, then that's what it's about. And you
Exactly.
know, we've seen the hobby grow. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you talked about that 90s period, right? That was from a lack of growth. That was from
Hmm.
people exiting stage left. And I don't think we really want to see that again. I think most of us don't. So I'm gonna throw back to Panini. I mean, you're the marketing. What can you say? What's coming? You got the NIL. I know that's going to be a huge thing for a lot of people. You know, whatever you can divulge. What people can look forward to
Yeah.
coming up here.
I mean, obviously, the next 3 or 4 years are going to be really interesting at Panini, and for the hobby in general. Got some big movement coming up. Who knows how that's all going to shake out, but it will be interesting for sure. Panini, we just partnered up with WWE, so we have our first WWE. If you're a wrestling fan, a first WWE release coming out soon. It's Prism WWE, which I don't know about you, but I love Prism in every way, shape, or form. So no matter what they apply that to, I joke that you could apply Prism to just about like any TV show or sport, or whether it's croquet or whatever. I would probably buy the
You can make
Prism
nannies.
croquet
You
packs.
can make nannies of America prism set.
Yes, yes. As long as
You
there's a
know,
gold parallel, I'm in.
Yeah.
Uh, so we have that coming up. We've got the partnership with the UFC just continues to grow, and we're releasing some additional product lines this year, which I'm pretty excited about because I'm a big UFC fan. Obviously, we have tons of basketball and football releases coming up, and our baseball release. And NASCAR has become a fairly big thing, and soccer is obviously growing a lot as well. And it's a big year for soccer with the World Cup in November. So we
Yeah.
are getting things prepared for that because that's the first World Cup since our sports card boom has happened, and I'm interested to see how what this soccer market does during the first World Cup. Would be very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, soccer's already grown, and then you add. I mean, that's we talk about Super Bowl or the World Series. That's theirs, and it's already crescendoed up there pretty good. How high can that ceiling go? Like you said, I guess we're gonna find out come World Cup time,
Exactly.
even before and after it as well, to see where. I'm not a soccer guy per se, but just from being a content creator, you got to talk about it, and it's been a huge, just I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but I mean just the trajectory of it just astonishing, and
I think
we've
saying
seen
it
that a
came out of
lot.
nowhere is pretty accurate for soccer. Like that kind
Yeah,
of surprised all of us, I
well,
think.
probably more in North America. Like if someone's listening to this overseas, they're like, "We've been here since
Yeah,
day one." Like,
exactly.
speak for yourself, there, buddy. But well, a lot of exciting thing, like we talked about, the hobby's changing literally by the minute. I look forward to seeing you in person at the national. And listen, we can't wait. I don't know what was it. Doing the math, like you said, almost 3 years, uh, just short of 3 years between appearances. I promise not to let that happen again. And if I'm old, so I might forget. You remind me. I time to come back on. So but
Yes.
Jeff, anything I always give the guests like kind of the final word. Any websites, anything you want to like get out there, whether it be Panini, Pack Geek, whatever you want to say.
I obviously, if you want to check out any of our products, everything is at Panini America. If you want to connect with me, and I would love to meet you and connect with the audience, my handle is at Pack Geek, PACK Geek, on all the social channels other than TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I appreciate that TikTok is fun for a lot of you. I have not opened up that can of worms yet.
I'm full disclosure, I'm on. I don't do a ton on there. I probably got like 20. My last one's probably like 4 months ago. I don't do a lot on it. Sometimes, if depending on the guest, I'll throw like a promo up there just because it's free and I can do it.
Sure.
But I'm no TikTok superstar. That isn't never gonna happen. So.
I
Uh,
think you're selling yourself short, John. Come on now. You become a TikTok superstar and I will join TikTok.
All right. Well, listen, don't download the app just yet. I think you're gonna be safe. But Jeff, thank you again for coming on, giving
My
some
pleasure.
time to the show, always being candid. And again, I look forward to seeing you here. I mean, it's coming up, man. We're a few months away here. Time's flying. We must be, like you said, having some fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And I'm excited to see you in your own backyard in AC.
Yeah, it's drivable. So I can, the nice thing is with driving, I can bring more stuff. When you fly,
There
you
you
got
go.
to bring on the one bag, and not everything gets to make the cut. So now I can be a little more liberal with what makes the trip and whatnot. So that'll be different and fun. So we're a few months away here, so it's coming right up. We'll see you there, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, buddy. See you soon.